Okay, we're here at Lake Guntersville. It's middle of wedge season. I just kind of thought we'd shoot a few videos to give you guys some pointers when you're out here on these ledges. I get a lot of emails and texts and phone calls just wanting advice and pointers. So we're going to do a little technique specific stuff with you guys, and some of these videos are going to have more fishing in them than others. Some of them aren't going to have any fishing, and this is one that's not going to really have any fishing, but I think it'll benefit you more than watching me just reel some 3-pounders in off the ledge. What we're going to talk about today is tuning your crankbaits, and that's something that I like to specifically go to the lake to do as a job. Not something I like to do just every time I get a new bait, just take it out and tune it before I go fishing. I actually will tune an entire box of baits, an entire tackle box of baits, and just come out here for 3 or 4 hours at a time and work on crankbaits. And it's something that may not sound like a lot of fun when you decide to go do it, but it might be a lot more fun when you actually go fishing and want a crankbait out of your tackle box and not have to worry about it not running straight. A few things about this is a lot of people don't realize if your bait's just running the slightest bit off to the left or right, you're actually losing sometimes up to 3 or 4 foot of depth. Not only are you not being able to hit the spot you're throwing and aiming to hit, you're really costing yourself a lot of depth, and with every crankbait, the amount of bottom you cover on every cast is imperative to catching fish. So you want it to touch as much bottom as you can and run as straight as you can get it to. So I'm going to go over a few tools that I bring to the lake to do this. First of all, I just bring my regular cranking stick. This is a Falcon 7.5 foot Cara. This is what I throw all of my crankbaits on that are, say, 8 to 10 feet divers up to 20 feet divers. And for the big monster cranks, Falcon has a new line of rod for that in the lowrider series. But this is just my everyday cranking rod, which is what I usually crank with. And I'll just take and tie a snap on it. Now, a snap to me is not really something I use all the time cranking. It doesn't bother me. I'll let you get a good look at it. It's just you can buy it at every tackle store in America, Walmart, wherever. I just tie on a pretty good size snap so I can work with it easy. It isn't a lot of work to get my baits on and off. This just allows me to go from bait to bait to bait a lot faster without just retying every single one of them. Now, what you will run into is occasionally you'll get one out of every 10 or 12 crankbaits won't tune right with a snap, and you will have to tie it on. But that's something that's not going to run into very often, so you don't have to worry about that a lot. But start with a snap. I also want to have a good pair of pliers, a good pair of needle nose. You don't want some cheap 99-cent rusted out needle nose pliers. It doesn't matter what brand they are, but you just need to have a quality pair so you can grab the eyelet and actually move it around and not get a lot of flex out of your needles on your needle nose. This is just a $8 pair of needle nose instead of a $1.99 bargain bucket pair. A Sharpie, which you're probably wondering why right now, but we'll get to that in a minute. This is not something you're going to see everybody do with a crankbait, but if you'll bring a Sharpie with you, you'll thank me later. And then a good batch of crankbaits. This is 2 cases of brand new Bomber fat-free shads. This is my favorite 12 to 14 foot ledge bait. So I'll just go ahead and get me out 5 or 6 of these, and enough so we can get started. I'm just going to open them all up. These are all, I just left them in the box so you guys can see they're all just brand new in the box. This is how I start out with every new bait before it ever gets to live in my actual tournament tackle box. I'll start out with them out here on a tuning day, and I'll just tune crankbaits. So I'm gonna get all these out of the box, and then we'll throw some out there, do some tuning, and then we'll talk about what that Sharpie's for right here in just a minute. Okay, I got all my baits out of the box here. I got them all lined up so I can keep up with which ones I've thrown and which ones I haven't. I've had problems in the past with getting them kind of confused with which ones I've already worked with and which ones I haven't. Doesn't sound like a big deal when you got 30 baits laid out here. It can be turned into a job to be trying to figure out which ones you worked on, which ones you haven't. So I'll start with them in a straight line like this, and I'll just go from one end to the next. And I'll go through them one at a time. I got my needle nose handy. I got my snap on. Now, when you put your snap on your baits, I know that's a real simple process or whatever, but you want to be sure this little tag end of the snap, the little curly cue hook, is up. You don't want to dig it into the bill of your bait. It's just going to interfere with what you're trying to do. So you can see right there, I've got it arranged so that the hook on the snap, after I close it, will be up and it won't be digging into the bill of my bait and altering my action or anything like that. You just don't want anything untrue when you're tuning. You want it to be as true as you can make it. So basically what I'm gonna do at that point is just get out here and just make, you know, 20-foot pitches or whatever with my bait, and actually point my rod right at it and reel it pretty quick. Just make it dive fast. And there's a prime example of what almost every brand of bait you buy. It's nothing against the crankbait, it's just they all come out of the mold different. This one's running to my right, the bait's left. Every time I pull on it, it just wants to go off to my right. Not far, but like I said, a lot of people would throw that all day, or for their whole life for that matter, and never think anything about it. But if you'll make this bait run straight and true, you're probably going to gain another 2 foot on the man that doesn't tune his bait. So that being said, on to the tuning process. This bait is wanting to run to my right when I cast it out, which is the bait's left. So you're going to take your needle nose, and you got the actual line tie below the split ring right there where the split ring's hooked into it. I just peel everything back, hold the snap and the split ring back, grab the whole line tie like that firmly. You don't want to just barely grab onto it. Grab it firmly, and if it's only a foot or two off on a 20-foot pitch, I don't really want to move it far. Almost enough that you even question yourself whether or not you even moved it any. Just a little bit of bend. Just almost so much you don't even feel it bend. I just keep my pliers in my pocket and then go back out again. Just repeat the same process. Pitch it out about 20 feet. Get your rod pointed straight at it and crank pretty hard on it. That one's already a lot better than it was. Actually, on that cast, it looks like that one's already almost perfect. So again, when I was twisting that, or not twisting it, actually just bending it, just right on the silver line tie that you can see right there. And I just clamp down on the whole line tie and almost move the bait more than the pliers, and just twist it opposite of the way it's diving. Just over, just a little. I've even seen people do that with their teeth, but I wouldn't recommend that. I like my teeth, I want to keep them. So that's a start. And we got it running straight, that's a start. And that's where it ends for 99% of fishermen, is right there. That's where they quit. For me, that's about half of it. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just examine this bait in the water. I wanna look and see, when I pull it down, I wanna know how fast it's gonna come up. That one's pretty quick. It's a pretty fast floater. Now I don't mean anything bad by that. It could actually be a good thing. You know, I like a fast floater for a certain application, and I like a slower floater or one that doesn't even float at all. And every crankbait will be different. I don't care if it's wood, it's plastic, it rattles. This is a silent model. It doesn't. None of that matters. Every crankbait is completely different. It's just like a total different brand of bait. Every single bait is. So now it's where the Sharpie comes in. I'll take this bait. This is also, I keep up with who's tuned and who's not. If I've marked on it, it's been tuned on. Don't let anybody fool you and make you think that this is going to hurt this bait in any kind of way. For me, that was a little bit of a fast float. It wasn't perfect for a lot of conditions for what I would like it for. So I'll take my Sharpie, and I'll, right here on the nose, right under the bait, I'll put F, F. Now, when that bait goes in the tackle box, it's tiny. It's not going to bother any fish. I mean, if a wire on an Alabama rig doesn't bother a fish, I'm pretty sure that's not going to bother a fish. I'll put that in my tackle box. When I'm cranking a hangy situation, like big rock or brush or something I'm afraid I might get hung in a lot, these FF crankbaits will be the first one I reach for. Also, they'll change over their life. You know, some crankbaits, if you own them for 2 or 3 years and you throw them a lot, later on, I might take acetone, clean this FF off, and put a different mark. For me, you know, I've got crankbaits that have FF, which is fast float. I've got crankbaits that have SF, which is slow float. And I've got crankbaits that have slow sink, SS, on them. I have crankbaits that have a little black dot right here, which means they're right and they've caught them a lot. And you know, with that I mean they just dive right. They have the perfect action. No bait in my box ever gets the black dot beside of its little name, whether it's FF or SS or whatever, until it's caught them. And then it gets the black dot, and it never gets thrown again except in a tournament. So that's just some little tricks of how I tune my baits. I'm going to go through all the rest of these and tune them myself here, but hopefully it'll help you when you're out on the water, kind of understand more about your crankbaits, and that each one has its own little personality, and maybe you can understand that with your baits more now and be more effective with your crankbaits. Good luck out there.